Joining us at the beach today is Jen Jones.
Green Bay Packers receiver. He's here on behalf of his foundation, Love Jones for Kids. It aims to enrich the lives of children living in disadvantaged and underserved communities. Go to lovejones4kids.org to find out more. Let's get to know him a little bit. James, your story, your path, your journey is kind of crazy. What do you look back on and say, that was the craziest part of my path?
Oh, man, I mean, just the way I grew up, man. I grew up homeless, for the first 15 years of my life. So it's a lot of things that happen in my life now, that happened in my past that really helps me, get through the things I go through now. And, growing up back then homeless, it really just taught me how to be humble, taught me how to stay hungry, and, really made me appreciate the little things a lot more.
I think it's hard for people to appreciate what it means to be homeless for 15 years. So is that like in and out of shelters? Or like, what does that mean, I guess?
Man, I've been through it all, man. I've been in and out of homeless shelters. I've slept on park benches, and, I've been from motel to motel, and, the first 15 years of my life was rough.
What do you remember about being scared? Was there a time that you were most scared during that time?
The time I was most scared is when we had to leave the homeless shelter because you never knew where you were going to go after that. The times you were in the homeless shelter, they give you 3 months to stay in there before you got to leave because they give another family an opportunity to stay in there. So when that 3 months was up and you had to leave, that was the most scariest time because you never knew where you were going to go. So when that happened, I always was a little scared, but I believed in my mom. She worked it out. She made sure that, we were going to be safe.
When you talk about sleeping on a park bench, was that a 1 or 2 time occurrence, or did that happen a lot?
Well, I mean, it was probably about 9 or 10 times, where we really were struggling and really didn't have nowhere to go, didn't have enough money to scrounge up to get a motel room, we're out of the homeless shelter, and, so it was times where you didn't have nobody to call, and, that was your last option.
Were you going to school at this time? Like, what was happening with other kids? What was happening with friends?
Yeah, well, when I was young, man, it was 5 or 6 different elementary schools because we moved so much and, went around the Bay Area so much. So I went to about 5 or 6 different elementary schools. And then when I got to high school, I moved with my grandma, and I was able to get some stability and stay with her for 4 years and, be able to go to the same high school before I went to San Jose State.
When and how did you become comfortable telling this story without any kind of shame or embarrassment? Like, was this a thing that you came to, or did you come by it naturally from the very beginning?
To be honest with you, I never was ashamed of the situation. And I never wanted to make my mom feel like I was ashamed of the situation. So when I was in elementary school, when I was in middle school, my friends would ask me, hey, man, can we come over to your house? And I would tell them, straight up, no, I live in the homeless shelter, man. We're not allowed to have, any outside guests come in there. And I never was ashamed. I never felt like I needed to be ashamed. Everybody goes through something. That's something that we were going through. So I never was ashamed. And then when I got to the NFL and got on this platform, they asked me to share my story, and I told them without a doubt, if I'm able to raise awareness for homelessness and those kids out there, and I'm able to change some kids' lives, let's do it.
It's interesting what you said there, though. You were trying to make your mom feel okay about it, right? You're specifically saying there you didn't feel shame because you didn't want your mom to feel that you were ashamed.
Yeah, I mean, my mom was humbled. I mean, not saying she was perfect. I mean, she had her own struggles. But at the same time, I seen my mom wake up. I seen her stand in front of 7-Eleven, stand in front of liquor stores, asking people for money. I seen her walk into different restaurants, asking for free food and all that stuff, and we didn't have no money. And I just seen her humble herself, through all the situations we've been through. So I wasn't going to do anything to make the situation worse, making it seem like it was her fault we were in there, or making it seem like, this was a terrible situation she got us in. So I tried to do my part, and I never was ashamed of her or the situation that we were in.
Was there one emotional moment above all others? I mean, you talked about wanting to get your mom out and buy her a home, but was there one moment where you felt like we made it and were able to share that with people with the kind of gratitude that echoes still today for you?
I would have to say that moment when I got drafted, man. When they called my name and all that we've been through, and when you set out a goal and for that goal to finally come true, and You know, it was just a dream come true. And when we got drafted that day, the first thing I told my wife was, it's time to start a foundation. And that's when I started my foundation, Love Jones for Kids, and I immediately started reaching out to those homeless shelters, not only that I grew up in, but the homeless shelters back in Green Bay, back in Milwaukee, and we wanted to reach out to them kids and, you know, be able to share our message and help them.
Let's go to a 3-shot here. James, thank you so much, really. I mean, that was really good. Thank you for sharing that story with us.
Not a problem.
Go ahead, Poppy. Ask James a question.
James, how do you propose to your wife?
Oh, my goodness. Very good question. You know, I'm like a super romantic guy. No, I'm playing. Well, what happened was my wife is a big, big fan of Red Lobster. She's like, I mean, like probably like us all. She loves the bread there, loves the biscuits. So I went a day before, you know, gave him the whole setup to how I wanted it. I put the box, the rings in the bread. So, you know, when they brought the bread out, you know, she took her gum out of her mouth and was ready to eat all 7 biscuits that was in the basket. And she opened it up, and the ring was there, and I was already on my knee.
James!
What's up?
You put the symbol of eternal love in the cheddar bay biscuits?
Well, I mean, it was still in the case and all that, man. It wasn't like in the bread. It was in the case, you know. It was nice and wrapped up. But when she flipped the napkin back, man, she seen the ring, man, and I was already on my knee, you know, ready to propose. So it was good, man. She was crying, so I didn't even really have to say too much.
She loved the hell out of you and the Red Lobster, boy.
Woo! See you later, James. Thank you for being on. It was a good one. Thank you, James.
All right, thank you.